Britain that would do the same thing as the wartime Jeep. Now even then, in the late 40s, the Jeep was still getting on. It was 5 or 10 years old. It was steel, very, very useful. And they thought, right, what can we do? So they started to design this vehicle, and then they had a brainwave. It was a brainwave which was actually a bit of a cheeky thing, because steel was in short supply. Remember, we still had wartime rationing, and all the steel was being used for armaments and military things. So it was in short supply, and they said, you know, we need more steel to build up the Rover cars civilian line, and we can get an extra ration of steel if we use the steel that we have used for the Land Rover for our cars. They said, well, how do you mean? They said, well, it's quite simple. There's lots of aluminium left over from the aircraft production during the war. They said, if we make the body panels out of aluminium, we can save all of that steel and put it into our cars. And if you had a car that you could offer for export, you also got more concessions from the government. So that's exactly what they did. They cheekily made the Land Rover's bodywork as much as possible from aluminium. Now this bit of cheek was indeed the best plan they ever had. It was an absolute accident, but the fact that Land Rover's bodywork doesn't rot, well, in the true sense of the word, like rust, it doesn't rot, made it the selling feature for the vehicle. The chassis, the bulkhead, that's the bit that the windscreen sits down onto, the doors bolt to, these are steel. Anything that needs to be strong is steel. So basically, underneath the chassis, all that sort of thing, steel. Rear cross member, steel. But all the body panels, the wings, the bonnet, the grille panels, everything above the wheels, basically, well, that's aluminium. This meant, as a side product, the Land Rover had a fantastic off-road performance, because it could lean over dramatically to one side or the other. Because of its low centre of gravity, it just wouldn't fall over. So, they started in earnest with the Series 1. The Series 1 proved to be very, very popular, and it moved on to the Series 1 86, then the 88, and eventually they moved on to the Series 2. The Series 2 was a slightly bigger machine. It was slightly more bulbous in size. They swelled it up a bit to make it a larger vehicle for usage, which made it even more useful. The Series 2 then went into a 2A, which is a slightly modified version, which went into the Series 3. The Series 3, as you do, went on for years and years and years. And then eventually that itself morphed into the 110 and the 90. Now the size now being denoted by the numbers is the axle distance from centre to centre. The Series 3 was a 109 or an 88. When they moved on to the 110 to 90, they didn't actually have a name for them. They couldn't call it a Series 4, that just didn't seem right. So they called it a 90 or a 110, which denoted the axles. Now, the improvements that this gave were not just the fact that it had a slightly wider wheelbase and a slightly wider wheel track, it was also the fact that it changed from springs to coil springs. Now, coil springs, as you can imagine, on rough roads give you a much more comfortable ride, whereas the leaf springs, well, they can be a bit bumpy, let's face it. So, what you've got to remember is, it's really much more comfortable on coils. Now, the 110 and the 90 stayed called the 110 and 90 for quite some time, and then they decided we're going to give them a name, because the army use them all the time, we're going to call them the Defender. So they then became called Defender 90s and Defender 110s. The latest incarnation in the Land Rover line is what we now commonly refer to as the Wolf, which is an extra duty or an upgraded chassis. It's got lots and lots of heavy duty bits and pieces on it, and it's still in service with the British Army. So since the 50s to the present day, the Land Rover has been the British Army's Jeep, if you like, its mainstay for basic transport. They've come in many shapes, sizes and variants. They've had lightweight Land Rovers which are designed to be slung from the bottom of helicopters or dropped on parachutes. They've had Land Rovers which have had the cab moved right over the wheels, such as the 101, which made the ambulance body. They've had armoured Land Rovers, and they've had stripped down pinkies, as they were called. These are the Pink Panther Land Rovers, which during the the post-war period were painted pink because someone discovered that the chassis of an aeroplane which had crashed in the desert was often used as a landmark. Suddenly they couldn't see it anymore, and they went to investigate whether the plane was still there, and they found that the paint had been sand-blasted off from silver back to the pink primer. The pink primer, because of the strange lighting conditions in the desert, meant that yellow wasn't actually the best colour, it was actually pink, which is why the SAS and the long-range desert patrol people painted their vehicles pink, including the tyres, and they went on patrol. Later, of course, they now paint them sort of grey and yellow, which is a sand colour, or light stone, as they like to call it, and the vehicles are still soldiering on. Now, there's nothing you can't do to a Land Rover. Because it's basically a bolt-together kit, you can take things off, put things on, change bits around, and make it really what you want it to be. If you are thinking of getting into the military vehicle scene, if you want to be on the other side of the fence next year and driving your machine around, a Land Rover is a very handy and cheap way to get in, because you can use it as your everyday car, but also use it as your military vehicle. You can pick up a Land Rover, I mean, check eBay, check anywhere you like. Ex-military Land Rovers, depending on their fit, finish, type, style and age and general condition, could go anywhere from about 1,500 quid on the road right up to 15,000 and beyond. Like I said, it depends on your budget and what you want it to be and how much work you want to do on it. Like I said, as you see them rolling around, you'll see the various different shapes and sizes, the various different fitments. A Land Rover really is a car for all seasons. Many people wonder why it's got particular quirks, such as the 3 seats across the middle. A Land Rover, if you don't know, is generally a driver and a passenger sitting on either side, and there's a funny little seat right in the middle, which is uncomfortable for anybody who sits in it. It's really too small to be of use. Well, the reason Land Rovers have 3 seats instead of just 2 seats car was designed along the same lines as a tractor, with the driver sitting absolutely smack bang in the middle. The idea was then he could use it on the farm just like a tractor, so farmers wouldn't be alienated by this new machine. They could just simply jump in the middle and drive and carry on either side if they wanted to. So, that explains why it's got 3 seats. The seat idea didn't work, it didn't make it past the prototype stage, and so that was abandoned. They just kept the 3rd seat there as a backup. It was cheaper to keep it going than it was to get rid of it. And it remained with 3 seats right up through the Series 3 range. It wasn't until it changed to the 90 and 110 that they went to individual seats, which actually gave you some sort of support when off-road. Most Land Rover seats are just sort of a slab of rubber which you sit on, and the leaf springs meant that if you were going down the road at any kind of speed and you ran over the smallest pebble, it would throw you right out of your seat, because of course the suspension was deemed to be so rough. Well, like I said, with coil springs that all changed. They changed from petrol to diesel when they went over to the 90s, the 110s in the British Army, because the British Army then adopted a one-fuel policy. This means that all the V8 engines generally went and were replaced by nice big diesel engines. Unfortunately, they gave the 90 and the 110 a 2.5 diesel engine, which was not turbo-assisted, and it was not very powerful. So it meant that they were slow lumbering machines, and of course when the military started fitting great big things into them, it was an even more slow and lumbering machine. But at least it was diesel, so the Army only had to keep stock of one fuel. Certain specialist vehicles, like the long-range patrol vehicles you see rolling around the ring right at the front now, well, they were still V8 powered, because they just needed that extra power to move all of that kit around. They were based on a civilian high-capacity body, and as you can see, everything you could possibly need to run that vehicle, unsupported, unsupplied for any length of time, had to be carried on or around the vehicle. They're running great big 900 by 16 sand tyres, and everything's in there. Water, ammunition, fuel, oil, rations, anything you can think of that you might need on a day-to-day basis had to be taken with them, which is why you see there's no room left for the passengers and the driver. Hard top, soft top, open top, whatever you want it to be, it can be. So like I said, the Land Rover, with us now, what is it, over 50 years, still going strong. There's not really much else to say about them, I think. You just have to look at the different designs, see which one you like best, and then go get one. They've been armoured versions, they've been amphibious versions. There have been versions dropped from parachutes, there have been versions where the parachute didn't open and they got squashed flat. You know, they are just a fantastic vehicle. Like I said, they're very much underrated. A lot of people out there just see them as a basic, everyday, bog standard vehicle, not very interesting. But like I said before, they are the Jeep of our time. The Jeep, when it was brought out, was just a utility vehicle, designed as a hack for the military to do what they needed to do, and really not cared for. But of course, nowadays they're seen as a rare collectible, even though there are still thousands and thousands of them out there. But they're still collected and revered. The same with the Land Rover. Right now, it's only a small minority of people who see them as a collectible, but they are coming on. So if you want to get in on this scene, like I said, this is a nice, cheap, easy way to do it. You can use it to cart the family around, you can use it to take the garbage down the dump, or you can use it as your military vehicle and still have a nice, cheap one. And if you like the idea of cheap insurance vehicle through one of the classic military vehicle insurance people, yeah, generally runs around £100 a year, fully comprehensive with limited mileage. That's pretty cheap motoring. If you get one that's pre-72, I think it is, then it's tax-free as well. So now you've got cheap insurance and tax-free. If you get an even older one, you can get MOT exempt, tax-free and cheap insurance. So now, of course, it becomes a very, very affordable machine. So there they are, the lumbering faces of the Land Rover. We'd like to have them going fast and picking up the dust for you, but just because so many in the arena, that wouldn't be safe. Obviously, I've given you a brief history of Land Rovers. It's impossible to tell you everything there is to know about a Land Rover on the microphone while they're rolling around. Likewise, I always say, please feel free to go and see the owners of these vehicles and ask them the questions that are burning in your heart. If you want to know why it looks the way it does, why he's got that thing bolted there, or why that thing's hanging off the back, ask him. They are more than willing to talk to you about it. Everyone here is really friendly, despite the fact that their hobby is military machines. They're actually very, very friendly people. So you just go over there, ask them the question, get the answer. You never know, you get a nice close look at the machine as well, much closer than you can see from behind the barriers. So there we are, in a nutshell, the Land Rover. So what we'll do now is we'll clear the arena once again, ready for our next event. Have a short break so you can get yourself some water or a drink or an ice cream or a burger. Get yourself a bathroom break.